For today's video, we will be listening to two stories for you to hopefully fall asleep to. So close your eyes and relax while you can hear the rain and the thunder in the background. The moon hung low in the ink, black sky, casting feeble beams through the heavy mist that clung to the desolate countryside. Eleanor Sinclair, a solitary figure wrapped in a heavy cloak, stood at the crossroads, clutching an ornate envelope. The paper was brittle, the edges frayed as if touched by the hands of time. The letter, an invitation to unravel the mysteries of Blackwood Manor, felt like a spectral whisper in the cold night air. Eleanor's breath formed ephemeral clouds as she hesitated, her gaze fixed on the distant silhouette of the decaying Victorian mansion. The ominous structure seemed to breathe with a life of its own, hidden secrets and tormented souls waiting to be unearthed. Each step toward Blackwood Manor echoed in the silence, the crunching of gravel beneath Eleanor's boots resonating like a prelude to an ancient ritual. The wind whispered through skeletal branches, carrying with it the voices of the past, their secrets woven into the fabric of the night. As the mansion loomed closer, its silhouette emerged from the mist like a specter rising from the grave. Ivy crawled up its weathered walls, a testament to the passage of time and the neglect it had suffered. The windows, shattered and boarded, stared out like empty eye sockets, revealing nothing but the impenetrable darkness within. Eleanor unfolded the letter, its contents revealing cryptic details about the mansion's cursed history. The ink seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, as if the words themselves held an otherworldly power. The letter spoke of tragedy, of a malevolent force seeking retribution, and of the daring investigator who could unlock the secrets within. Her skeptical mind wrestled with curiosity, the allure of the unknown drawing her closer to the threshold of Blackwood Manor. The air grew heavier as she crossed the threshold, the creaking door protesting as if warning her of the impending descent into the abyss. Inside, the mansion's grandeur had succumbed to decay. Dust danced in the air, caught in the ethereal glow of the moon filtering through tattered curtains. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant creaks and sighs of the old building, as if it held its breath in anticipation. Eleanor's lantern flickered, casting elongated shadows on the dilapidated walls. The letter clutched tightly in her hand. She took a tentative step forward, the floorboards groaning beneath the weight of her presence. The mansion seemed to awaken, its dormant spirits stirring as Eleanor ventured deeper into the heart of the haunted labyrinth. The journey had begun, and the mysteries of Blackwood Manor awaited, shrouded in the echoes of the past and the unsettling whispers of the shadows. The moon hung low in the ink, black sky, casting feeble rays upon the winding path that led Eleanor Sinclair to the desolate heart of Blackwood Manor. Mist slithered across the fields like ghostly tendrils, embracing the Victorian mansion in an ethereal shroud. The air crackled with an unsettling tension as Eleanor approached, the creaking gate opening with a somber groan, as if reluctant to admit her into the realm of forgotten shadows. Inside the mansion's decrepit walls, Eleanor explored the chilling tapestry of its history. Portraits of long-gone inhabitants stared down with hollow eyes, their faces distorted by the passage of time. A forgotten grandeur clung to the faded wallpaper, peeling away to reveal glimpses of the opulence that once graced Blackwood Manor. The locals, reluctant to meet her gaze, spoke in hushed tones of tragedies that echoed through generations. Whispers of betrayal and vengeful spirits lingered in the air like a haunting melody. Eleanor, her skepticism waning, felt the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders as the stories unfolded. In a dimly lit room, an elderly man with haunted eyes recounted the tale of the disappeared daughter. A spectral figure glimpsed in the moonlit corridors, and the melancholic wails that echoed through the long-forgotten halls. Each word wrapped around Eleanor like tendrils, pulling her further into the enigma of Blackwood Manor. As she ventured deeper, The mansion seemed to come alive with subtle movements just beyond her peripheral vision. Shadows danced in the corners of her eyes, and phantom whispers brushed against her ears. Rationality warred with intuition as Eleanor grappled with the inexplicable, questioning her own senses in this labyrinth of forgotten secrets. The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive, as if the very walls of Blackwood Manor absorbed the anguish of its tormented past. Eleanor's steps echoed through empty halls, and the flickering candlelight played tricks on her imagination. A door creaked open, revealing a hidden chamber filled with relics of a bygone era. A decaying wedding dress, tarnished silverware, and the residue of lives shattered by unseen forces. In the heart of the mansion, a portrait of a bygone matriarch seemed to follow Eleanor's every move, her gaze penetrating the veil of time. The eyes held the weight of sorrow, whispering secrets that only the walls dared remember. Eleanor felt a chill down her spine, realizing that Blackwood Manor held more than just tales. It cradled the ghosts of its past, waiting to be heard. As the clock struck midnight, Eleanor stood in the center of the grand foyer, her surroundings pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The mystery of Blackwood Manor deepened, pulling her further into the shadows of its haunted history, where the past and present converged in a dance of whispers that promised to reveal the malevolent secrets lurking within. Eleanor stood in the dimly lit foyer of Blackwood Manor, the air thick with the musty scent of aged wood and lingering secrets. Moonlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting an ethereal glow on the grand staircase that seemed to ascend into darkness. The walls whispered tales of long-forgotten tragedies as she pressed forward, guided only by the flickering flame of her lantern. As she ventured deeper into the heart of the mansion, the temperature dropped noticeably, sending shivers down her spine. The creaking floorboards beneath her echoed in the silent expanse, creating an unsettling symphony that seemed to resonate with the spirits that dwelled within. The air became charged with an otherworldly energy, causing Eleanor's senses to heighten. Shadows danced on the walls, their movements defying the logic of the flickering lantern light. She reached the entrance to the grand ballroom, where a once opulent chandelier now hung in disrepair, its crystals refracting the ghostly glow. Eleanor's heart quickened as she stepped into the ballroom, her lantern casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance in tandem with the spectral energy enveloping the space. The grandeur of the room was marred by the phantom echoes of long-lost laughter and the distant strains of a forlorn piano. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing Eleanor's lantern. Darkness enveloped her, rendering the ballroom an abyss of uncertainty. Whispers surrounded her, ethereal voices recounting tales of betrayal, revenge, and unfulfilled destinies. Her hand brushed against the wall as she fumbled for a match, the only beacon in the oppressive blackness. The match flared to life, revealing the grand ballroom transformed. Spectral figures, dressed in tattered finery, twirled in a macabre waltz that transcended time. Their hollow eyes bore into Eleanor's soul as they danced with an intensity fueled by centuries of anguish. In the center of the ethereal dance, the vengeful specter materialized, a figure draped in shadows, its features obscured by the weight of its tragic past. The room pulsed with a malevolent energy as the specter fixed its gaze upon Eleanor. A voice, cold and haunting, echoed through the chamber, recounting the injustices that had befallen the spirit in its unrelenting quest for retribution. Eleanor felt a surge of terror as the specter reached out, its ghostly fingers brushing against her skin. Whispers filled her mind, revealing the depth of the entity's sorrow and the centuries it had spent in the shadows of Blackwood Manor. The match burned out, plunging the ballroom into darkness once more. Eleanor stood alone in the chilling silence, the echoes of the spectral waltz fading away. The malevolent energy lingered, leaving her with a profound sense of foreboding. The specter had been awakened, and the haunting had only just begun. The midnight hour lingered in Blackwood Manor like an ominous symphony, each creak and moan echoing through the desolate halls. Eleanor, her flashlight flickering in the oppressive darkness, found herself drawn deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the air thick with an otherworldly chill. As she ventured further, the walls seemed to close in, the wallpaper peeling like the layers of forgotten memories. Unseen whispers fluttered around her like ethereal butterflies, carrying with them the weight of untold secrets. A portrait on the wall seemed to watch her every move, the eyes of long-dead ancestors following her with an unsettling intensity. The spectral atmosphere played tricks on her senses. Cold drafts danced through the corridors, leaving goosebumps in their wake. Eleanor's breath caught as shadows seemed to detach from the walls, taking form for mere moments before dissipating into the inky blackness. The flickering candlelight in a nearby room drew her attention, and cautiously, she stepped inside. The room exuded an ancient charm, the furniture draped in dusty covers, frozen in time. An antique mirror hung on the wall, reflecting a distorted image of Eleanor, her eyes haunted and wide with apprehension. The air turned dense with a palpable malevolence, and Eleanor felt an unseen force tugging at the edges of her sanity. Soft sobs echoed through the room, whispers of sorrow that clawed at the recesses of her mind. The unsettling sounds seemed to emanate from the very walls, as if the mansion itself wept for the sins of its past. In the dim light, Eleanor glimpsed fleeting apparitions, shadows of figures long gone. She blinked, and they vanished, leaving only the echoes of their presence. A distant, mournful melody reached her ears, a ghostly piano playing a lament from some distant era. The room became a kaleidoscope of fragmented memories, blending reality with the supernatural. Eleanor's childhood fears resurfaced, intertwining with the haunting tales of Blackwood Manor. She stumbled backward, her pulse quickening, feeling the unseen hands of the past tightening around her soul. As she reached the threshold of the room, the temperature plummeted and the door slammed shut behind her, sealing her within the spectral chamber. Panic surged through her veins as she realized the mansion itself was orchestrating this descent into madness. A voice, ethereal and laden with anguish, whispered her name, a chorus of spectral murmurs surrounding her. Eleanor's heart raced as the room seemed to close in, a suffocating embrace of the paranormal. She clutched her flashlight like a talisman, its feeble glow pushing back against the encroaching darkness. In the claustrophobic silence, Eleanor questioned the thin line between reality and the supernatural. Blackwood Manor had become a malevolent entity, preying on her deepest fears. As the whispers persisted, she steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation ahead, unsure if she could escape the descent into madness unscathed. The grandiose hallway echoed with the muted whispers of the past, as Eleanor Sinclair, her nerves like taut strings, navigated the nightmarish labyrinth that Blackwood Manor had transformed into. The flickering candlelight cast grotesque shadows on the peeling wallpaper, creating an otherworldly dance of light and darkness. The air grew thick with an oppressive tension as Eleanor pressed forward, the creaking floorboards beneath her boots adding an eerie cadence to her every step. The spectral whispers intensified, swirling around her like malevolent spirits eager to share their long-buried secrets. She clutched her lantern tighter, the soft glow barely illuminating the encroaching darkness. As she approached the grand staircase, a chilling breeze swept through the corridor, extinguishing the lantern's feeble flame. Darkness engulfed her, leaving only the dim glow of the moon filtering through cracked windows. The silence was broken only by the distant howl of the wind and the haunting echoes of her own breath. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and Eleanor felt an unseen presence in the black void ahead. Whispers echoed, weaving tales of sorrow and betrayal. The shadows coalesced, taking on an ominous form. The specter itself. It materialized slowly, revealing a figure draped in tattered garments, its features obscured by a shadowy veil. "Eleanor Sinclair," the specter's voice echoed, a spectral symphony of anguished tones. You dare tread on the ground stained by the sins of the living. Eleanor's heart pounded as she summoned the courage to respond, her voice steadier than she felt. I seek answers. What is it you want? Why torment this place? The specter's response echoed through the mansion, resonating with a mournful lament. Justice, denied for decades. The sins of the living must be unveiled. The grand staircase shuddered, and a ghostly wind swept through the corridor, carrying with it the whispers of the specter's tragic past. Eleanor felt a surge of empathy, a connection with the tortured spirit that transcended the boundaries of the living and the dead. As the specter continued its ethereal confession, the mansion's architecture warped and twisted, mirroring the tumultuous emotions within. The walls seemed to weep, and the air crackled with an otherworldly energy. Eleanor, caught between the supernatural and the corporeal, questioned the blurred line between justice and vengeance. In a moment of revelation, the specter's form flickered, revealing glimpses of its former self, a victim of betrayal and tragedy. Eleanor, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, grasped the profound connection between her own past and the malevolent force she sought to dispel. The confrontation reached its crescendo as Eleanor, guided by a newfound understanding, faced the specter with empathy rather than fear. The mansion's haunting symphony reached its peak, and with a spectral wail, the tortured entity dissipated into the shadows. Silence descended upon Blackwood Manor, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and Eleanor, her lantern reignited, stood alone in the grand hallway, contemplating the thin veil between justice and vengeance, the living and the dead. As she emerged from the shadows, the mansion seemed to exhale, its haunted history laid bare. Yet in the lingering echoes of the confrontation, an unsettling ambiguity remained, challenging Eleanor's perception of the supernatural forces that bound Blackwood Manor and the mysteries that still clung to its decaying walls. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay as Eleanor stood in the dimly lit foyer of Blackwood Manor. Shadows danced across the ornate wallpaper, whispering secrets of centuries past. Her breath trembled as she clutched the old key, a relic from a bygone era, in her trembling hands. The mansion seemed to hold its breath, anticipating the final act in this macabre play. The oppressive silence was shattered by a sudden gust of cold wind, extinguishing the flickering candles that lined the grand staircase. In the darkness, a low murmur echoed, as if the very walls of Blackwood Manor harbored a malevolent consciousness. Eleanor took a tentative step forward, the floor creaking beneath her weight. As she ascended the staircase, the air grew colder, and the atmosphere thickened with an otherworldly tension. The walls seemed to close in on her, whispering fragments of long-forgotten secrets. Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing through the desolate halls. At the top of the staircase, a doorway materialized from the shadows. A dim light flickered from within, drawing Eleanor toward an enigmatic chamber. The door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing a room bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center of the room, the specter materialized, a spectral figure with hollow eyes and a form that seemed to waver between solid and ephemeral. Its mournful gaze met Eleanor's, and the room pulsated with a spectral energy that seemed to seep into her very soul. The specter's voice, a haunting melody of despair, resonated through the room. Eleanor Sinclair, it spoke, its words carrying the weight of centuries. You have uncovered the sins of the past, and now you must face the consequences. Eleanor, her voice steady despite the chill that gripped her, questioned the entity before her. What do you seek, Spectre? What price must be paid to appease your restless spirit? The Spectre's tale unfolded, revealing a tragic history of betrayal and injustice. Eleanor listened, her heart heavy with the burden of the past. As the story reached its crescendo, the room trembled and the walls seemed to weep. With a newfound understanding, Eleanor made her choice. The room quivered as she uttered words of closure, invoking a ritual passed down through generations. The specter, its form flickering like a dying flame, seemed to accept her offering. A sudden calm settled over Blackwood Manor. The spectral energy that once permeated the air dissipated, leaving a profound stillness in its wake. The shadows retreated, revealing the grandeur of the mansion in its original, untouched state. As Eleanor descended the staircase, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the air felt lighter. The whispers that had haunted her throughout the investigation were replaced by a tranquil silence. The mansion, once a battleground between the living and the dead, now stood silent, as if time itself had come to a standstill. In the moonlit night outside, Eleanor gazed back at Blackwood Manor, her reflection mirroring the uncertainty that lingered within her. The optional twist of ambiguity hung in the air, challenging the very fabric of reality and leaving Eleanor questioning the boundaries between the living and the dead. The night clung to the ancient forest, shrouding the mansion in a cloak of dense fog. Eleanor Blackwood's footsteps echoed through the damp air, each one a hesitant beat in the silence of the spectral night. The mansion, looming ahead like a silent sentinel, was an imposing figure with ivy-covered walls that seemed to whisper forgotten secrets to the wind. Eleanor's breath hung in the chilled air, her anticipation mirroring the unease that the mansion exuded. Her investigative instincts tingled with a mix of trepidation and excitement, driven by a mysterious tip that promised revelations within those decaying walls. The journalist, adorned in a weathered trench coat, held a dim lantern that cast flickering shadows, dancing like specters on the overgrown path leading to the mansion's foreboding entrance. The caretaker, an elderly man with weary eyes and stooped shoulders, awaited her arrival. His gaze bore the weight of countless tales untold, and as he spoke, his words lingered in the air like the echoes of a ghost's whisper. "Beware, Miss Blackwood," he warned, his voice carrying the weight of the mansion's sinister history. "The shadows here have memories that do not fade, and the walls harbor secrets that demand to be left undisturbed." But Eleanor, fueled by a relentless curiosity and a personal tragedy that had ignited her quest for answers, pressed forward. The mansion seemed to draw her in, its dark allure like a siren's call that resonated with the unresolved mysteries of her past. As she crossed the threshold, the air shifted, the temperature dropping, and the unsettling sensation of being watched settled upon her shoulders. The entrance hall, adorned with faded portraits of long-forgotten faces, creaked under her weight, protesting the intrusion of the living into a domain long claimed by the dead. Eleanor's lantern cast eerie shadows on the walls as she ventured deeper into the mansion's recesses. The wallpaper, peeling like old wounds, whispered tales of bygone elegance tainted by a malevolence that clung to the very fabric of the building. The silence was palpable, interrupted only by the occasional sigh of the wind outside and the soft murmur of her own breath. In the mansion's heart, a forgotten library unfolded before her, its shelves laden with dusty tomes and forgotten knowledge. She ran her fingers over the spines, feeling the weight of forgotten stories, until her hands settled on a collection of weathered journals. The pages, yellowed with time, revealed the words of Dr. Victor Thornfield, a name that seemed to dance on the edge of her memory. As Eleanor immersed herself in the writings, the mansion responded. Soft whispers, like distant cries of anguish, reverberated through the halls. Shadows, once content to linger in corners, began to writhe and dance, reflecting the turmoil awakened by Eleanor's investigation. Unknown to her, the malevolent force within the mansion stirred, its dark energy pulsating with a renewed vigor. The boundary between the living and the dead quivered, and Eleanor Blackwood, unknowingly entangled in the web of the mansion's secrets, was now an unwitting catalyst in the awakening of something long dormant. The first chapter had been written, the stage set for the symphony of horror that awaited Eleanor within the shadows of the mansion. The moon hung low in the ink-black sky, casting an otherworldly glow upon the fog. Draped mansion, Eleanor Blackwood, stood at the threshold, feeling the weight of the ominous history that clung to the stone walls like an invisible shroud. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the distant hoots of owls in the ancient trees that surrounded the estate. Guided by an ethereal pull, Eleanor entered the mansion, its grandeur now masked by years of neglect. The grand chandelier above swayed gently, as if stirred by unseen hands. A thin layer of dust coated the once opulent furniture, bearing silent witness to the passage of time and the mansion's gradual descent into decay. With a lantern in hand, Eleanor navigated the dimly lit corridors, each step echoing in the empty halls. The silence was oppressive, the only disturbance being the soft creaks of the old floorboards beneath her weight. As she moved deeper into the heart of the mansion, a sense of foreboding intensified, as though the very walls harbored a sinister secret. Her quest for answers led her to the mansion's forgotten library. A room frozen in time, dusty tomes lined the shelves, their spines bearing witness to the knowledge that time had tried to erase. Amidst the leather-bound volumes, Eleanor discovered a collection of journals adorned with Dr. Victor Thornfield's elegant yet cryptic handwriting. The first journal opened a portal to the past, revealing Thornfield's descent into madness. His words painted vivid pictures of forbidden experiments, unholy pacts, and the pursuit of knowledge at the cost of his own humanity. Eleanor, engrossed in the macabre tale, could almost hear the echoes of Thornfield's maniacal laughter reverberating through the pages. As she delved deeper, the spectral energy within the mansion stirred. Whispers, barely audible, danced around her like ethereal phantoms. Each word carried the weight of a forgotten soul, echoing the torment of those who had crossed paths with the mansion's dark legacy. Eleanor felt an invisible hand brushing against her consciousness, urging her to unveil the buried truths. Time lost its grip as Eleanor devoured the journals, her mind entangled with the tortured history of the mansion. Shadows seemed to dance on the walls, taking on sinister shapes that mirrored the horrors contained within the pages. The lantern's flickering light cast eerie shadows, making the surroundings appear more surreal with every passing moment. As she reached the final journal, a cold breeze swept through the library, extinguishing the lantern's flame. In the sudden darkness, the whispers crescendoed, surrounding Eleanor like an intangible, ghostly audience. Dr. Thornfield's malevolent presence lingered, a spectral residue of the horrors that had transpired within the mansion's walls. In the void, Eleanor stood alone, the weight of the revelations pressing upon her like a leaden cloak. The mansion, once silent, now hummed with a spectral energy that seemed to acknowledge her intrusion. The boundary between the living and the dead blurred, and Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that her quest for truth had set something ancient and malevolent into motion. The mansion, enveloped in an otherworldly hush, creaked and groaned as Eleanor ventured deeper into its dimly lit corridors. Shadows clung to the walls like silent sentinels, and the air, thick with the scent of age, seemed to pulse with an ominous energy. Every step echoed through the cavernous halls, a disconcerting rhythm that whispered secrets buried in the mansion's bones. As she entered the forgotten library, its door protested with a reluctant squeal, a sound that echoed the hesitancy in Eleanor's own heart. Dust danced in the feeble light, filtering through moth-eaten curtains, casting eerie patterns on ancient tomes and forgotten relics. The room held a reverent silence, as if the very walls harbored the weight of forgotten tales. Among the cobweb-laden shelves, Eleanor's fingers traced the spines of crumbling books until they stumbled upon a hidden panel. With a hesitant push, the secret passage revealed itself, like a forbidden gateway to the mansion's darkest secrets. She descended into the bowels of the library, guided only by the flickering light of a dim lantern. In a hidden chamber, surrounded by dusty manuscripts and forgotten artifacts, Eleanor discovered a weathered journal bearing Dr. Thornfield's unmistakable handwriting. The leather cover felt cool to the touch, carrying the weight of a century's worth of unspoken horrors. As she opened its pages, the air thickened with a chilling anticipation. The entries unfolded like a descent into madness, chronicling Dr. Thornfield's descent into the forbidden realms of occult knowledge. Each word danced with the desperation of a man unraveling the fabric of reality itself. Forbidden rituals, eldritch incantations, and grotesque experiments were meticulously detailed, casting a sinister pallor over the room. As Eleanor delved deeper into the journal, the mansion responded in kind. Whispers, faint but insistent, reverberated through the chamber. It was as if the walls themselves were retelling the horrors of the past, a chorus of spectral voices recounting the twisted experiments that had stained the very essence of the mansion. Suddenly, the lantern's flame flickered violently, casting distorted shadows that danced on the walls. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat as a cold breeze swept through the chamber, extinguishing the lantern. Darkness embraced her like a suffocating cloak, leaving her alone with the disembodied whispers that seemed to coil around her very soul. A soft thud echoed through the chamber, and Eleanor's heart raced. The room felt alive with unseen presences, each whisper an echo of the malevolent force she had unwittingly stirred. As she fumbled for a match to relight the lantern, a voice laced with the bitterness of centuries echoed through the darkness. "Curiosity is a dangerous flame, miss." "Blackwood?" the voice murmured, a spectral breath against her ear. And in the shadows, the past never truly sleeps. With the lantern reignited, Eleanor found herself alone once more, surrounded by the silent witnesses of a bygone era. The journal clutched in her hands. She couldn't shake the feeling that the mansion itself watched, waited, and hungered for the living to unravel its long-buried secrets. The midnight hour hung like a heavy shroud over the mansion, its ancient walls creaking with unseen whispers. Eleanor Blackwood, her resolve unwavering but nerves frayed, navigated the twisting corridors. Each step reverberated through the stillness, the echoes conspiring with the shadows to create an unsettling symphony. As Eleanor advanced, the very air seemed to shiver with malevolence. The mansion, once a stoic witness to dark secrets, now exuded a palpable sense of awakening. The supernatural stirrings had evolved into a cacophony, and the walls themselves seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows that clung to the walls like sentient entities. The floor beneath Eleanor's feet echoed the soft moans of ancient floorboards, protesting the weight of secrets they bore. She pressed on, a lone figure surrounded by the foreboding architecture that seemed to conspire against her. The temperature dropped, and Eleanor's breath formed ghostly tendrils in the icy air. The mansion's very essence had become an adversary, and Eleanor felt as though she were trespassing through a realm where the living and the dead merged seamlessly. Suddenly, a distant whisper echoed through the corridors, a spectral voice that sent shivers down Eleanor's spine. It was a twisted symphony of forgotten sorrows and tormented regrets, a lamentation that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. "Leave this place," the voice murmured, a warning that hung in the air like a dagger poised to strike. Yet, despite the ominous words, Eleanor pressed forward, her determination outpacing the rising tide of dread. The walls seemed to pulse with a subtle, malevolent rhythm, and the shadows deepened as though hungering for the warmth of the living. Doors creaked open and shut of their own accord, revealing glimpses of distorted rooms where reality itself appeared to warp and twist. As Eleanor ventured deeper, the malevolent force intensified. Whispers grew into anguished cries, reverberating through the air. Apparitions flickered at the edge of her vision, glimpses of tormented souls caught in a timeless purgatory. In the heart of the mansion, Eleanor found herself in a vast, dimly lit chamber. Shadows clung to the corners, reluctant to yield to the flickering candlelight. The air crackled with an ethereal tension, and Eleanor sensed the presence of the malevolent force converging upon her. Suddenly, the room seemed to come alive with unseen hands. Tendrils of darkness coiling and reaching, Eleanor's surroundings twisted and contorted, defying the laws of reality. She stumbled, disoriented, as the very fabric of the mansion rebelled against her intrusion. And then, in the heart of the swirling darkness, a ghostly figure materialized. The specter of Dr. Victor Thornfield, eyes hollow and filled with a malevolent fire. He fixated on Eleanor with a chilling intensity that transcended the boundaries of the living. "You awaken that which should remain dormant," his voice echoed, a macabre chorus of despair accompanying his words. "You trespass into realms you cannot comprehend." Eleanor, enveloped in the suffocating presence of the malevolent force, faced the looming figure of Dr. Thornfield. The mansion's secrets, like shadows reaching from the past, sought to entangle her in a web of forgotten nightmares. The malevolent stirrings had escalated, and Eleanor stood at the precipice of a darkness that threatened to consume both the living and the dead. The grand hall echoed with an otherworldly silence as Eleanor, her heart pounding, confronted the malevolent specter of Dr. Victor Thornfield. The ghostly figure, draped in tattered remnants of a once elegant lab coat, stood within the shifting shadows, a manifestation of long-buried nightmares. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat as the air seemed to thicken with an unnatural chill. The flickering candlelight cast grotesque shadows on the walls, dancing in rhythm with the malevolent energy pulsating through the room. Dust motes hung suspended, caught between the realms of the living and the dead. "Who dares disturb my torment?" Dr. Thornfield's voice, a spectral whisper that cut through the silence, reverberated with centuries of bitterness and anguish. His hollow eyes fixated on Eleanor, an ethereal glow emanating from within. Swallowing her fear, Eleanor took a tentative step forward. "I seek the truth, Dr. Thornfield. The secrets hidden within these walls must be unveiled." A malevolent laughter, devoid of mirth, echoed through the hall. "Truth is a fleeting luxury, my dear. You meddle in affairs beyond your comprehension." The room seemed to contract, walls closing in on Eleanor as if the mansion itself sought to suffocate her curiosity. Shadows danced with malicious glee, distorting reality. The air grew thick with the scent of decay, a macabre perfume of forgotten sins. "I won't be deterred," Eleanor declared, her voice trembling, but resolute. "What drove you to such darkness, Dr. Thornfield? What secrets does this mansion hold?" The ghostly figure drifted closer, its ethereal form casting an unsettling glow. "Ambition, curiosity, the insatiable thirst for knowledge. These are the shackles that bound me to this realm. My experiments were condemned, my soul condemned to eternal suffering." As Dr. Thornfield spoke, the walls seemed to bleed with the stains of past horrors. Ghostly apparitions materialized, replaying moments of twisted experiments and tortured souls. The very fabric of the mansion absorbed the weight of its malevolent history. Eleanor felt a cold hand on her shoulder. Though no physical presence was evident, the chilling touch sent shivers down her spine, awakening suppressed memories of her own pain and loss. "You, too, bear the weight of your past," Dr. Thornfield intoned, his voice now a haunting lament. "Your grief resonates within these walls, attracting the shadows that linger in the corners of your mind." The room pulsated with an otherworldly energy, a fusion of the living and the dead. Eleanor's surroundings became a surreal dreamscape, where reality and nightmare intertwined in a disorienting dance. With a surge of courage, Eleanor confronted the apparition. "Release me from this nightmare. What must I do to break the shackles that bind you and the darkness within?" Dr. Thornfield's form wavered, the spectral glow flickering like a dying ember. Redemption is elusive, but not impossible. Confront the darkness within yourself. Unravel the threads of guilt and despair. Only then can the cycle be broken. The malevolent force seemed to withdraw, leaving Eleanor standing alone in the grand hall. The shadows receded, returning the room to an eerie stillness. The whispers, however, lingered, their haunting echoes a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. As Eleanor contemplated the ghostly encounter, a newfound determination ignited within her. The mansion's secrets were entwined with her own, and only by confronting her inner demons could she hope to banish the shadows that threatened to consume her. The journey for truth, she realized, had become a battle for her very soul. Eleanor stumbled through the distorted corridors of the mansion, her breath ragged and her pulse echoing in her ears. Shadows clung to her like malevolent specters, shifting and contorting with an unnatural life of their own. Each step felt like a descent into madness, the walls closing in on her, as if the mansion itself hungered for her fear. The air crackled with malevolence, and Eleanor could sense the mansion fighting her attempts to flee. Rooms transformed into grotesque scenes from her nightmares, spectral figures writhing in agony, faces twisted in silent screams. The floor beneath her seemed to undulate, challenging her balance, as if the very foundations of reality crumbled beneath her feet. In the corridor ahead, a door materialized, its surface pulsating with an otherworldly glow. With no other options, Eleanor pushed it open, revealing a twisted forest beyond. Trees whispered ancient secrets, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The shadows in the woods danced in a sinister ballet, mocking her attempts to find sanctuary. As Eleanor stumbled into the night, the malevolent force tightened its grip. The forest, once familiar, had become an impossible maze. Whispers of her deepest fears echoed between the trees, the voices of lost souls pleading for release. Panic clawed at her throat as she ran, every footfall echoing through the haunted woods. A clearing emerged, bathed in the sickly light of a spectral moon. In the center stood a gnarled tree, its branches contorted into grotesque shapes. As Eleanor approached, the whispers intensified, merging into a haunting chorus that reverberated through her very soul. The ghostly apparition of Dr. Thornfield materialized, his eyes burning with a malevolent glow. "You cannot escape, Eleanor," he hissed, his voice a symphony of tormented souls. "The mansion hungers, and it will consume you." Eleanor, exhausted and desperate, faced the apparition. "I won't let you control me," she declared, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. But the malevolent force, undeterred, surged around her, tendrils of darkness snaking toward her like hungry serpents. Just as Eleanor felt the encroaching darkness about to claim her, a blinding light erupted from the twisted tree. The spectral moon intensified, casting an ethereal glow that pushed back the shadows. The mansion itself seemed to recoil, its malevolence momentarily subdued. In the eerie calm, Eleanor stood in the clearing, panting for breath. The whispers faded, and the haunted forest became still. Was it over? Or was this just a momentary reprieve before the malevolent force unleashed its final assault? As the spectral moon waned, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a haunting whisper. "This is not the end, Eleanor. The mansion's hunger is insatiable." The gnarled tree shuddered, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The malevolent force, momentarily dormant, lingered in the shadows, biding its time for the next confrontation. Eleanor, surrounded by the echoes of tormented souls, knew that her escape was only temporary. The mansion, with its dark secrets and insidious hunger, would not rest until it claimed her soul. And so, beneath the spectral moon, Eleanor Blackwood found herself trapped between the malevolent force and the haunted forest, with no choice but to continue her desperate escape into the unknown. The whispers persisted, hinting at the horrors that awaited her, leaving the reader to wonder if Eleanor would ever break free from the grasp of the mansion or succumb to the shadows that hungered for her very essence.